Hello, everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to this, the latest in the series of CHOC Foundation webinars. So good to have you all, those of you who've logged in now and are watching live via streaming. And for those of you perhaps who've clicked on at a later date, so good to have you all on board. Welcome. My name is Ndoro. I'm going to be your host for today's chat, and I'm really honored to be with you and welcoming these powerful voices that you're going to be hearing today, talking about, of course, this very important subject of childhood cancer. So gold is the color of strength, it's courage, it's resilience, and gold is also the symbolic color of childhood cancer. Now, every year in September, this is a time that internationally that Childhood Cancer Awareness Month comes to the fore. A time where cancer organizations around the world put the spotlight on children's cancer and the need to improve early detection, early diagnosis, treatment, and also making sure that our children get better outcomes. So today we're asking you to be bold and go gold boldly, because it's a really, really important theme for us. And this, of course, in supporting our courageous children, our resilient children and teenagers who have no choice but to fight this battle of childhood cancer. So we believe that early detection does save lives. And this is something that's been proved time and time again. And this can only happen if we all stand together and boldly create awareness about childhood cancer. So thank you all for being in this room. Thank you all for clicking onto this webinar because we are all on the same page, thinking about the same thing and hoping for the same outcomes. Now, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, perhaps are not aware of what CHOC Foundation does, it's a non-profit organization that advocates for health and well-being of children and teenagers diagnosed with cancer or life-threatening blood disorders, and not forgetting, of course, the well-being of the families too. Now, this is done by offering comprehensive child and family support through psychosocial, emotional, and practical support. This is, of course, CHOC augments the efforts of the different medical fraternities. So today we welcome those powerful voices. I'm going to be introducing them to you in a short while. And we encourage communities at large to spread awareness and be the heroes of everyday life. Remember, early detection is 90% of the battle here. Okay, so let's begin. Let's meet one of those voices now. And I want to begin with our first guest, who's better known actually as Mama Brenda. She's a CHOC community trainer. She works in the pediatric oncology unit at Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg. And for the past 10 years, she's been training healthcare professionals, healthcare workers, and traditional health practitioners on early warning signs of childhood cancer. Brenda, Herbert, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Thank you for the work that you've been doing for so long. And it's so good to have you on the webinar today. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon, Peter. It's so lovely to meet you. And I'm so grateful to be part of this webinar about my passion, which is the little children, their parents or caregivers, CHOC, of course, and just the early warning signs, the EWS of childhood cancer.
And we're
so thank you for having me.
Oh, so good to have you. And we're going to talk about all of the things that you've just mentioned there. But let's start with how you got involved with CHOC.
All right. Well, 23 years ago, I was called by a friend who worked for CHOC because her child had cancer when he was 6. And she said, CHOC's looking for a nursing sister to act as a ward mother in the inpatient ward at Charlotte Maxeke. Well, I was blown away. I got the job after my interview. And for the first time in my life, at the age of 50, I became a mother. I had all the emotions that a mother would have. I was excited, I was overawed, but I was actually quite terrified. But I went into the ward and I was blown away by the courageous and resilient children, by their parents or caregivers, and mostly their mothers. And I must add there that I have such huge respect for South African mothers who basically carry the can and look after their kids. I learned how to talk to children through a talking mat because our language skills were not always there. And I just had the most awesome career. And I'm so grateful because I was supported by CHOC and some of the colleagues. I mean, Audrey's one, Alta, Prof. Poole, I can go on forever. But I've really had an incredible career, and I've worked in the ward for 19 years as a mother.
Wow. You know, and your contribution really is not a small thing, and we thank you so much for that. But tell me, from ward mother to CHOC community trainer, how do you use your learnings to boldly create awareness about childhood cancer?
Well, I guess as a mother, and I guess every mother would want the best care, the best doctors, the best hospital, and above all, an accurate and best diagnosis of their child's condition. And sadly, in the years I was in the ward, I saw far too many children who quite frankly would have survived their cancer if they had been caught early enough, and they didn't, and they lost their lives. And that was heartbreaking for me. So I became passionate because I actually lived it with the parents, with the children. You know, when you're there for 19 years, you live a lot of their story. And really, I have many stories that I can tell about incredibly courageous kids who are resilient, who, when they are sick, turn to the wall. But boy, when they're ready to come back and they're feeling well again, they're right on the button. And I find with this, I will talk to people. I mean, with load shedding, I was in Milady's the other day, and anyone who's around me and I'm waiting to get my payment made, they hear the story of CHOC and the early warning signs of childhood cancer. So it's something that I'm passionate about because I feel it's not just nurses and doctors, it's the community that needs to know the early warning signs as well.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about CHOC's training of healthcare professionals. What do you think makes it so special?
Well, I think CHOC gives us the tools. You know, we all get a flip chart, which has got pictures that back up what the written word is. And that helps. I'll be honest, I add my own very graphic pictures, especially when I'm talking to nurses or doctors, because if you can get people by shocking them, sometimes it helps. Of course, I don't show those to just the ordinary man in the street. I think they'd run away from me. But we're also given a study manual that we hand over to the doctors or the nurses that we're training so that they can do further study on childhood cancer. And we were also all taught that we all have different learning methods. I tend to teach. I hate to say that I use a lecture type, but I have to because I have to get accurate knowledge through to the people in this limited time that I have. But we play games at the end of my talk. I use all the stories that come from my heart to make it more appropriate and to also get people's attention. I act out and, you know, just use what I can to reach nurses who learn about this much about childhood cancer. So I found they have no clue. I can't sort of get them to give me what they think cancer is because they don't know. They don't know that children get cancer. And we also use a Greek name, Siluan, Siluan, which is an acronym that helps us get the 6 early warning signs across to the community and the nurses or the doctors, and hopefully they will remember it.
Well, let's talk about those 6 early warning signs of childhood cancer. What are they?
All right, so for the S, you're going to seek. What are you going to seek? Medical help for the persistent symptoms. not the once a day headache, or once in 6 month headache. The next one is the eyes. You would check for a white spot in the eye, not the sparkle that we all have from the light, but the sort of glazed over, sort of opaque white spot that starts small and gets bigger. The new squint, the new blindness, and the bulging eyeball. The L is for lumps, from the top of the child's head to the bottom of the sole of his feet. And don't forget anybody who's checking a child to get them to open their mouth, because often lumps are in the mouth. The ear, there's a muscle in the ear. The abdomen, the neck, the axilla, the groin, the usual places. The abdomen. Most of our kids come to the hospital having been missed because nobody checked the kid's abdomen. And of course, the testicles in little boys. And every lump should be referred to a doctor. The U is for unexplained. So anything you can't explain, a fever for over 2 weeks, a loss of weight or appetite, pallor or paleness, tiredness. Children shouldn't get tired. Easy bruising and bleeding. And then, of course, we get to the A for the aching. Us old people ache, but not little children. So if your child is complaining repeatedly of backache or joints that are aching or bones that are not feeling right, and also where a child playing soccer on a perfectly smooth astroturf suddenly breaks a leg. Those are not normal things. You can't explain them. And then finally, the neurological signs, which is the change or deterioration in walk, speech, balance, personality changes, regression of milestones, headaches for more than a week with or without vomiting, and sometimes the vomiting is quite violent, and an enlarging head. So this is just the tip of the iceberg of some of the symptoms. So I ask everyone to remember Silouan. See, the eyes, the lumps, the unexplained, the aching, and the neurological signs and symptoms. And thank you for my opportunity. Really, I appreciate it.
Mama Brenda, we want to thank you. We thank you so much for the years of work and contribution, and just being part of this journey. I have no doubt that so many children are grateful that you came into their lives. So thank you so much for joining us today, and lovely having a chat with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And really, it was me who learned so much from them.
Wow, thank you. Well, that's Mama Brenda Herbert, who's a ward mother, trainer now, talking to us about a long and very much enjoyed career. And no doubt she's made the lives of so many children a little bit more bearable during the fight, and so much better in terms of the outcomes as well. Well, let's meet another amazing person. And this young lady, she herself has been through this journey. She's a childhood cancer survivor, and her story began when she was quite young, actually. She's in her early 20s now, and she went on to study amazing things, sociology and anthropology. So fascinating woman. And I've had a chance to have a look at some of the things that she said online. Very inspiring too, in terms of the messages that she shares. So she talks to us about her story. Please welcome Liviwe Takule. Liviwe, so lovely to meet you. Thank you for joining us and sharing your message with us today.
Thank you so much.
So Liviwe, your cancer journey began quite young, didn't it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, at 8 years, I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is a bone cancer, at the East London Hospital, Frere Hospital, which they then transferred me to the Groote Hospital in Cape Town, where I did my treatment and my limb sparing surgery in my left leg. So since then, I've been in remission, and the whole process took about a year. Then they discharged me. So all was left now was being able to adapt to all the changes that the after cause made, being able to walk with my leg and all the limping, especially as a child. So I had to adapt to all of that and live with it since now, until now, sorry. But it hasn't been so hard since I had a very strong support system, and also the people from different organizations would come into the hospital to support us, engage with us in different activities at the hospital. So that was a way for us to escape the reality and just to get a chance to forget about everything and maybe forget about our friends who were outside the hospital, because they were really helpful at engaging with us in the different activities at the hospital. Yes.
Yeah, look, you've been in remission a really long time now, which is a wonderful story, a wonderful outcome. What does it mean for you to be a survivor of childhood cancer?
To me, having been survived cancer means that I'm a very strong person. Considering how challenging it is emotionally, especially as a kid, because now you have to watch other kids playing and you are unable to do some other activities like running, playing around with other kids as a normal kid, just per se being a normal kid. So it was very challenging. So I'd say that I'm a very strong person emotionally and physically. It is very challenging. And yes, thank you.
I can imagine how difficult it is, especially when you're young and you know, you're just trying to figure out life, trying to see the world, and you're dealing with a very serious challenge like this. What would your message be to children or teenagers who are going through a similar journey right now?
Well, I confirm that it is indeed not a very easy journey, but it is worth fighting, because there's more to life and you can achieve as much things as you'd like to achieve, as long as you embrace your whatever that you're going through and not give up. Always stand still and never give up. Always, because we are strong, we are survivors at the end of the day. We'll survive the worst. Yes.
Yeah, and it does get better, doesn't it? I mean, I know that at times it can feel like you're running into a wall, but if you stick to it, it does get better.
It gets better. I promise, it gets better.
Oh, you know what, Liviwe, it's been so good talking to you. I look forward to seeing how your career plays out, because you've got a strong, powerful spirit there. I have no doubt you're going to do amazing things. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, that's Liviwe Takule, who at 8 years old was diagnosed. She fought hard. It was difficult. And she says, yes, it will be a challenge. It's a very difficult journey, but one that can be overcome. So as she said, lean on those people around you. They're there to support you and help you. So it will sometimes be a hard journey, but one that you can overcome, and you will thrive. So to Liviwe, thank you so much indeed for joining us and sharing that chat with us. Okay, so yeah, lots of interesting people that we have on our chat today, and I hope you're enjoying the conversation as much as I am. The next person that we're going to chat to, he's currently a CHOC board member, but he's a very, very special man. He and his wife, Karen, are founder members of the well-known CHOC Cows. The cows raise funds through sports events for CHOC, whilst at the same time having fun. Grant serves on the CHOC board and adds value to this organization with his expertise and passion to boldly create awareness about CHOC. He's an inspiration to so many people, and I've got to say we're honored to have him on our panel today. So please welcome Grant Bain. Grant, thanks so much indeed for joining us. So good to have you, and I love the suit.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate the invite and being able to chat to you guys today. I really appreciate it.
So one of the things that you do is you really do get physical in terms of the work that you do, and I wonder, as grueling as many of the rides and kilometers that you cover, we know that your journey has been just as tough, perhaps even more so. Share your story with us a little bit.
Sure, Peter. Yeah, unfortunately, we as a family, we've lost 2 children to cancer. Unfortunately, we have a gene that's in our family that predisposes us to cancer. So, which we obviously didn't know. It's been years of kind of finding out stuff and going to doctors, getting genetic testing and all sorts of stuff. But basically in 2007, our little girl, Jessica, was 10 months old, and she just wasn't well, and she just just didn't seem to be getting better. We kept going back to the pediatrician, and as Mama Brenda said earlier, not that it would have made much difference, to be honest, in this case, because she had a very rare cancer that we found out. But we kept getting misdiagnosed, and eventually it did come out, and she had a rare cancer called neuroblastoma. And unfortunately, 10 months later, 20 months, she passed. Yeah, it was devastating. Obviously, to lose anybody, but to lose a child, it just doesn't seem the order of life, does it? Really, you should never, you should never outlive your children, and that's my opinion anyway. But yeah, and then we kind of a couple of years later, that was in 2008. She passed. 2010, we had another little girl called Georgie, beautiful girl, and she unfortunately in 2018 was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And passed in 2019. So it was, yeah, it's devastating. It's completely devastating. We don't understand, but what we try and do is positive. We try and give as much back as we can. We put the work of CHOC, the good work of CHOC out there as much as we can. And fortunately, we have a wonderful kind of tool to be able to do that, which is the cows. And yeah, it's been an inspiration for us to do that journey. But that's our kind of journey in a nutshell, really.
Thank you so much indeed for sharing that story. And I know that every time you tell it, it can't be easy. And out of that loss that you've been able to do so much for other children is really a wonderful thing. At most of these sporting events that you get involved in, we can't miss these cow kits that we're seeing right now. And they're really a beautiful symbol, I think, of the work that you do. The cows are a very bold brand within CHOC. What gives them the drive to raise funds for CHOC?
Yeah, look, it's quite it's an interesting thing. I mean, basically in 2008, when we lost our daughter, my wife and I, I've done quite a lot. I've done comrades, I've done Ironman, I've done all sorts of stuff. So she had never really done any of this sport, and she just thought, what, the work that CHOC did to help us through that first journey, we just hadn't have a clue. And fortunately, Mama Brenda was there, Prof. Cool, all of the people that was mentioned earlier. And we were able to, what we did is we just said, let's give back. Let's do a fundraising for, we decided 94.7 would be a good way to start. So there were 8 of us, some friends of ours just kind of joined. And what we did is we kind of then, we ended up going to a fancy dress, and the only 8 suits we could find were cow suits. And that is basically how the cows sort of, there was no ulterior motive, there was nothing. And from that, yeah, the cows are born. And, the work that CHOC does is kind of unique and amazing. And, obviously it's very, very close to mine and my wife's heart and all the people that originally started the cows with us. And it's just kind of grown. It's been organic. We've just literally gone from one thing to another, and it's just grown and grown and grown. And it's easy for us to raise money for CHOC because they are such an amazing organization. And, there wouldn't be anybody else we'd want to raise money for, to be honest with you.
My goodness. And I guess it's hard to imagine just how big this herd of cows would have grown to today. What do you see in the future?
Look, yeah, Peter, that's interesting because it's been very much a journey of kind of, it's kind of been very organic. We've just we started with 8. Then 1 year we had 400 cows, and it kind of comes and goes. But we do so many different events. We do comrades, we do mid-mile, we do Ironman. We've even had some cows climb Kilimanjaro. And what we do know is that what's easy for us is we don't have to worry about the financial stuff. That all goes straight to CHOC. We don't have to worry about all of the fiduciary stuff. We know that the costs are great, and they're kept as low as they can. And all the benefit goes to the kids and the families and all the hard work and good work that CHOC does. So it is easy for us. And, so we just keep going, and literally we don't have any control. It just kind of rolls every year, and everybody has a story. Everybody wants to add good. And this just gives them a means to it. You know, they can dress up, they can do what they like, they can act crazy, and it's great for them, you know. And over the 12, 14 years that we've been doing this, I mean, we've raised, I was just having a look now, we've raised nearly 50 million rand for CHOC. So it's super amazing for us. And what we would love to do is maybe see it go a bit international, just give more awareness. Let as Brenda, let's get it out there. Let's save as many kids and as we can. You know, one saved today is a million tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's just a wonderful thing to see when people come together in common purpose for something like this. And often, and we rightly so, we have these conversations and our focus is on the children and the teens, but we should never forget the families. And I know that because you've been through this journey, you know how important it is to take care of the families as well.
100%, Peter, and that is, you know, they kind of get lost, and it's also the siblings, and they kind of get lost in translation sometimes because all the attention goes on the kid that's sick, and you know, and that's where CHOC also helps with their psychosocial services. They talk to the families, they talk to the kids. You know, Brenda's fantastic; she does that and she explains it, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that can get lost in translation because, you know, cancer it seems to have been a dirty word, and you know, it's just something that never was allowed in society. I mean, even as long as 10 years ago, people didn't really talk about it. You know, they kind of, oh, they've got the C word, you know, and it's just sad, you know, because if we can talk about it, I'm sure there's so many more people we can find it early and get them cured. I think that's the important part.
Well, let me tell you, we are grateful, Grant, that you do what you do and that you are superhuman and able to do all these amazing physical things. For me, getting out of bed is quite an effort, I must tell you. But thank you.
Like age is catching up a little bit, Peter. But,
oh,
you
gosh,
know,
brother.
as long as we can.
But thanks so much, Grant. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And thank you for so much for that suit that you wear and what it represents. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Right, that's Grant Bain, who's a CHOC board member, but one of the founders of this amazing CHOC cows that do such great work, particularly raising funds for the great work that CHOC is doing. So to Grant and all the cows out there, this big herd that's doing great work, thank you so much for the work that you continue to do. All right, our next guest, and I'm so excited. We've got a whole celebrity joining us now to give us some of her time. And she's a CHOC ambassador. She's a former singer, model, TV host, actress, TV producer, as well as a businesswoman and a philanthropist. She's been in the entertainment industry since 2003. Over the years, she went through trials and tribulations. Certainly, life has tested her and has taught her valuable lessons through that journey. She's also a loving mom of 4, supporting wife, and basically an awesome human being. On the 2nd of June 2016, she was announced as the Childhood for Cancer Foundation CHOC ambassador. This after her last born son, Mpilo, fought cancer from 2014 to 2016. He's now in remission, but sadly left him blind. She goes around the country visiting schools, doing activations and bringing awareness to early warning signs of childhood cancer. Please welcome Phumeza Mdabe. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. So good to be chatting to you.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Ah, no, fantastic. You know, we'll look at your face and we think, I know her.
So good to be here. I'm so honored.
All right. So, yeah, part of the reason that you're in this room is because that you've been on a journey yourself. And I just wonder if you could just share that story with us.
Sure, yeah. So Bilo was born in 2013. You know, we were very excited, obviously, you know, at the birth of a child. And then, you know, after he just turned a year, we realized that something was wrong. You know, his eyes, you know, went squint, and we noticed he was starting to feel his way around rather than just walk around the house. And let me tell you that we didn't even think about cancer. That was not even something that, we didn't even imagine. We were literally going to get his eyes checked to be put back in place. And, that's when the doctor was just like, guys, your kid has the retinoblastoma, bilateral, both eyes, stage 4. We need to get the right eye removed immediately, because it's going onto the optic nerve to the brain. And then we'll see if we can save the left eye. And that just literally, just turned our worlds around, because I think more than anything else, like Grant was saying earlier on, you don't even think about, when you have a child, you think life is good, it's a blessing, you're going to have a family, and you imagine, you're growing old with your kids and your kids bearing you. So such news really does just, put you off completely. And for us, especially being in the Black community, cancer isn't a thing that was known at all, and even worse for the child. We never knew that children could have cancer. This for us was shocking. We only thought, it's older people, that sort of thing. So for us, this was a journey that was just beginning in terms of learning about cancer. What does this mean? When the doctor told us, we thought our son would be dead the following day, because we didn't understand what cancer was. We were panicking. We were driving to the hospital, with our hazards on the car, and just losing our minds. And yeah, from that day on, we began the journey of learning about cancer, learning about childhood cancer, just everything around it. And I think, that happening to us at the time, it then introduced so many other things that would now, trickle into our lives, and it just us learning things about life in general, and myself and my husband learning about life and marriage because of our child that's sick. So really just Bilo coming into our lives has just been a roller coaster. We're so grateful that he's alive. I know I've heard Grant's story before, and every time I hear him speak, I always just get goosebumps, because I can't imagine what that must feel like, and so we really do count our blessings. And, yes, he's blind, he can't see, but we're so grateful, that he's still here, and for the journey that we've been through. Yeah.
It is a difficult journey, and one can't even begin to imagine what it is like for a parent. But someone like you, it must be even doubly hard, because you have a public face, and the public expect to see you in a certain way. It must have been quite hard to put on this brave face in public. How did you manage that?
We didn't manage it. We literally withdrew from the public. That's what we did. We literally just disappeared, because at the time, that's what we did. We just thought, what, we can't, talk about this, because then we're going to have the media coming and asking questions. Every time we bump into someone at the shops, they're going to go, oh my gosh, how are you? And every time you need to, say, no, we're fine, or we're not fine. So we were just like, what, the best thing for us is just to not say anything, and just deal with this privately with our family, and also just being at the hospital sometimes, and you're sitting outside the theater room, and, there's nurses who want to take pictures with you, and you're like, okay, my child is in surgery, getting his eye removed, and, but you can't say that to someone, because they're so excited to see you, right? And you're like, oh, can I just have a quick picture? Oh my gosh. And you're just like, okay, so it was very hard, and just what it meant for us financially as well, because we had no idea, what it meant for us financially, and everything that happened after that, us having to downgrade our lifestyle, and when you're in the public eye, that also comes with a certain stigma. So we literally had to take it step by step as it came, and a lot of things we didn't foresee. So as it came, we were like, okay, now how do we deal with this? Now how do we deal with that? So we literally just withdrew and went, okay, we're just going to deal with this. After we have dealt with this, whatever outcome there is, then we will speak about it, but we'll know that it was behind us at the time.
You mentioned the word stigma, and I guess for us, particularly Black people, some of these issues are quite problematic to talk about. We even heard Brian a short while ago talking about, you know, people not wanting to mention the C word. Tell me about a little bit about your experience and what you saw about some of these stigmas attached to this kind of illness.
Sure. I think for me, the most shocking thing has been, especially in the Black community, where it's like, you know, the doctors would tell us, you know, because we went through 2 years of chemotherapy and radiation with Mbilo for his left eye, and the tumor was just not responding. And again, the tumor was going into the optic nerve in the left eye, meaning it was going to the brain. And the doctor said to us, look, you guys have a week to decide if you want to get this eye removed as well, you know, which then means that your son will be blind, you know. And we sat there thinking, why is he asking us as if we have a choice, you know? And we later found out that, you know, children, specifically now with disabilities, because now obviously Mbilo has a disability, right? You know, in the communities, you know, parents would rather choose to hide their kids. So if a child doesn't have a limb or is blind like Mbilo, they'll be hidden in a room and they won't go outside and play because what are people going to say? You know, the doctor told us that some parents opt to not have the surgery and say, you know what, we can't afford for people to see our child like this. It's fine. He's not going to die. He'll be fine. And then obviously the inevitable happens and the child passes. So for us, those were some of the biggest shocks. You know, we were just like, wow, this thing is a really big problem where we need to talk about it and say, it's okay, you know, it's not such a disaster. I think, you know, learning to value life more than what are people going to say or what are people going to think, you know, is another, you know, conversation that needs to be had. And specifically in the Black community where, you know, it's very striped, that stigma is just there, you know. So never mind the C word, you know, it's like that word is not understood at all. So I commend, you know, an organization like CHOC, which is why I came on board to say, you know, when we go to the schools, the primary schools, and we speak to the children to say, you know, it's okay. And when they see someone that they know from TV, it's like, oh yeah, no, if they can talk about it and, you know, she's in a family that has the situation, surely it's not so bad, you know. But it is one family at a time, I believe, that you can, you know, get the message across. So the stigma is very, very much still alive. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think, you know, we are getting there slowly but surely, definitely.
All right, and I guess this is one of the reasons why it's been so important for you, to do the work that you do, CHOC ambassador, and going out there and spreading the gospel, as it were, and creating awareness.
Very important. Like I'm saying, you know, as bad as it sounds, if you're on TV, you're like this perfect. Some people don't even think you're real until they see you, you know, in the rural areas. It's like, oh my gosh, this person is real. They're not just on my screen. So if I can, you know, spread the message and spread the word and talk about my own experience to say, I'm human. I'm no different from you, you know, who watches me every day. And this is what I went through. And this is how I dealt with it. And this is now my situation where my son is visually impaired, you know, and he's fine. He's a normal child. He's no different. It's just that he can't see, and he sees in his own way, you know. And we try and, you know, make it fashionable, and, you know, and he's going through his own journey, obviously, of being frustrated about why this happened to him and why he can't see, and, you know, and all of that stuff. But you know, he knows he's special because he's taught us, you know, things on just by being himself and being here. So for us, we look at it as a blessing now that we went. At the time, we obviously thought, why us? You know, God, why us? But then you need to ask yourself, if not you, then who? Who deserves to go through such a thing, you know? So you embrace the situation and you see how you deal with it. So it's always such an honor for me and a privilege to be able to share my story and say, it's okay. We are all human. We are all here. We are all alive. How do help each other out? How do we assist each other? You know, and other people go through their own experiences, and when they talk about it, you're like, wow, I don't know if I would have been able to deal with that, you know. So it's one step at a time, and yeah, just talking about it, I think, goes a long way as well.
I can only imagine that there's a lot of self-discovery that happened as a result of this journey that you've been through, and I just wonder, you know, some of the learnings for you that might help other parents, caregivers, when they are told this news and have to start this journey.
Oh, yeah. Sure. I think more than anything, now that I think back, when we first heard the news, was just to take a deep breath and go, okay, I just heard this. Okay, what does it mean? You know, find information, ask, find people who you think, you know, are relevant to your situation. For example, I get a lot of people, obviously through my social media and all of that, who ask me, who are going through similar situations, to say, how did you deal with this? And had we just took a breath at the time. But I think when you get such news, obviously you just lose your mind. But I mean, now that I know, it's just to breathe and just go, okay, I've just got this news. I need to deal with it. What is the first step? I need to find information. And then once I have that information, I can make informed decisions. You know what I mean? And then just take it one step at a time after that, and try and get help. For example, CHOC is here to help families who are going through those situations where if a child is diagnosed with cancer, you know, to reach out to CHOC and say, okay, here's my situation. You know, CHOC will help you. You know, counseling, everything that you need. If you're struggling financially to get to a hospital and all of those things, it's just to breathe and find information and go, okay, where can I get help? Because the first time you hear it, you immediately want to just go, boom, I'm going to prevent this from happening. Unfortunately, it's already happening. It's already unraveling. So it's just to take a breath. That's what I would say, and just go, okay, it's overwhelming, it's devastating, but what is the first step? What is the first thing I need to do? If I don't have information, let me find information and not think, oh, my child is going to die tonight, because that's literally what we thought. We were like, oh, what does this mean? Oh, if we don't get to the hospital in the next 5 minutes, you know what I mean? It was crazy, but because we didn't know anything about it, that's what we thought. So I think that would be the first thing I'd say, just to go, breathe. I know it's overwhelming, but breathe. Sit down and go, okay, this is the news. Where do I start? I need to find information. Where do I go? Google, do whatever you need to do, find that information, and then take it step by step by step until you get to the resolution of the problem. Yeah.
I suppose also another brave thing is to go and get help and lean on people, because this isn't the first time this has happened to anybody in the history of mankind. And therefore, there are people that can hold your hand.
That can hold your hand through it and support you, and you don't have to be alone, you know. And I think that's so important that you said that, Peter. You don't have to be alone. And in fact, being alone at this point, when you go through this, is the worst thing that you can do to yourself, because that's what we did as well. Like I'm saying, we withdrew from the public, but we also, as much as our families were there, but we sort of went into a shell, because I think, you know, at the time, everything was going so well for myself and my husband. We were at the peaks of our careers, you know, and then we got these news, and we were just like, what, you know, and then life really made, like, that's when we were like, this is what life is about. Life is about family. Life is about your children. Life is about your husband or your wife, and everything else just sort of fell off, you know, and went, it's not so important, you know. But we sort of went into that little bubble, and we were very alone, because also you can't speak to certain people, because then they're going to tell someone, and then it's on the, you know what I mean? So it was a tricky place to be in. But I think when you have someone to hold your hand, it helps so much. Just having, you know, those friends of mine cook us supper every now and then when we were at the hospital, getting home and there's a warm supper ready, that goes a long way, you know. Because then you don't have to stress about you know, the siblings now, like Grant was saying earlier, the siblings don't get the attention anymore because you're so invested into this child and making sure they're okay. You forget that the other children exist as well as parents. And that for us was also another thing that we learned. So having that support is very, very important.
That was actually my next question, because you've got 4 kids.
Yes.
The other children, how do you journey with them and also remember that they're individual children that want both mom and dad to love them in the same way, but they've also got a sibling that's not okay?
Yeah. Sure. I won't lie, we caught onto that very late. We were literally, you know, we were sitting down with Mbilo's sister and brothers, and we were going, okay, guys, this is the situation. This is what it means. You know, we need to be here, obviously, for your brother. We need to understand, blah, blah, blah. And then we would say, are you guys okay? Do you have any questions? And everyone seemed okay. Like, no, we're fine. You know, let's just make sure Mbilo is fine. And, you know, and then one day we got a call from his sister's school to say, you know, she just burst out into tears, you know, and said that her brother was sick and, you know, all of these things, but she'd never actually expressed that at home, that she was feeling, you know, so stressed and, you know, so sad. And we realized that we actually needed to look more into how they felt and the impact that it had on them, you know, because this is their brother, you know. And he's still a baby. Obviously, everyone was still, you know, going, oh, he's so cute, you know, and then boom, you know, the baby's sick. So this cute little guy, you know, is now going through all of this. So, you know, that taught us a lot. And we then went, okay, let's regroup. Maybe everyone is just acting strong and you can't expect a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old to act strong. They don't even know what that means. So let's regroup and sit down and go, guys, yes, mom and dad are very stressed, but that doesn't mean your feelings don't matter. You know, if you feel like you need to cry or you need to come and sleep with mom and dad for the night, it's okay. Let's do that. You know, it doesn't mean that just because, you know, this is the situation. So we learned it slowly but surely, you know, that this is what it meant and sort of dealing with that with the brothers and the sister. So it was a learning experience for us as well. At the first time around, we definitely missed it, but we caught on very slowly. And yeah, it was quite a big lesson as well for us as parents.
And how's Mpilo now? How's he journeying through childhood?
So, Mpilo is a handful.
As they are.
Yeah, he's a typical boy. Sure. Yeah. I think, yeah, he's full of life. It's amazing. I mean, the fact that we named him Mpilo, which means life, you know, he's full of it. He loves adrenaline. He rides quad bikes. He loves music, you know, piano, drums. You know, he's very independent. You know, he doesn't want you to hold his hand. You know, very smart, very in tune as well. His senses obviously have now become more attuned than the normal person. You know, things like if it's going to rain and then there's no cloud in the sky, and he says, it's going to rain today. And first time he said that, we were like, no, it's not going to rain. You know, and a few hours later, it was pouring rain. We were like, what? You know, so he's doing amazing. It's just obviously he's 9 years old now. So now he gets a bit frustrated every now and then. Oh, why can't I see? Oh, will I ever be able to see again? You know, so we're just going through that phase where we're explaining to him that it's okay, you know, and if he's frustrated, he needs to vent. And yeah, but he's doing amazing. We really are so blessed.
And it's such a wonderful thing, because I think we forget that, yes, there is the journey, but there is so much life still in thriving and being a survivor, that this, yes, it's difficult. You've got to get over these hurdles, but there's so much joy and life waiting on the other side.
Yeah, definitely so much life and joy. And we, like I said before, we're so grateful because, you know, other families don't get, you know, to live it out and to live it through with their children. So we really do count our blessings all the time. And it's just, you know, us being able to know what another family is going through when they do go through this, I think is so important to know the shoes that they're in and the journey that they're walking. So all the time, we're always just trying to share our story and just go, okay, you know, this is what we did and this is how we dealt with it. Maybe we might deal with it differently, but, you know, yeah, I think more than anything, what is important is for parents to know the early symptoms. That is the most important thing, because had we known, you know, little things like, you know, the temperature being too high, you know, all of those things. Also, it just being so tricky because he was a baby. Obviously, he was teething. Obviously, when the baby's teething, the temperature is going to go high. So, you know what I mean? But those little things, you know, about, you know, the white, that when the tumor is in the eye, you know, that light, you know, we didn't know all of that. So I think for parents, it's so important who have children just across the board to go, what are the early symptoms, you know, so that they always know what to look out for. You know, I feel like cancer is such a tricky thing because it fools you. Sometimes you'll think it's a flu or it's just a little thing, you know, but if it keeps persisting and it's always there, you need to go and make sure that there's a thorough checkup, especially if there's cancer in the family and those sort of things. So definitely, I think it's so important for parents to know about early symptoms. And CHOC definitely makes those, you know, things where, you know, you can see that, okay, here are the symptoms, it's on the website, it's, you know, through when you go visit the schools. And, you know, I've been saying on my social media for parents, because there's also a thing of, oh no, my child is fine, so I don't have to attend the webinar. No, it's just to have information and go, what are the symptoms? That's all you need to know, and go, okay, now I know what to look out for. You know what I mean?
Phumeza, I can't tell you how much of an honor it has been to talk to you. Thank you so much indeed for sharing your story with us, and Mpilo's story, because it's inspiring. So thank you so much indeed for being a super mom, super parent, and a super ambassador.
I wish I was a super mom. Thank you, Peter.
You are, for sure. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Right. Gosh, it's amazing how quickly time goes by when we have these conversations. But Phumeza, what a wonderful story, isn't it? And I have no doubt that it is a challenge for parents and family and siblings to journey through this. But you know what? What we know and consistently see is that if you get the help, if you arm yourself with knowledge, there is a way to the other side. So keep tuning into webinars such as this. Go onto the website of CHOC and get the help that's there waiting for you. All right, just to start concluding, as I said, I can't believe that an hour is done now already, but to say our last few words, it's my great pleasure to welcome Program Development Manager at CHOC, Audrey Luddick.
Hi, Peter. Thank you so much. And it is my privilege today to do the thank you and conclusion on behalf of our CEO and of CHOC. You know, I always stand amazed that CHOC is 43 years old, I think it is. And through the years, so many parents have shared stories, shared their sorrow, their laughter. Survivors has shared stories. But every time I hear it again and I hear stories, I really feel that there's hope. Even in sadness, sometimes there's hope. So, Peter, to you, I just want to say thank you so much for being our host. Thank you for being part of the CHOC family. We value you as a professional, but also as a very dear CHOC, a friend of CHOC. And Mama Brenda, thank you for the work that you do to save the lives of children with cancer. Your passion for what you do is always an inspiration to all of us. And I've learned so much from you. So thank you so much for that. Liviwe, the first time I saw your video on the Childhood Cancer International social media, I knew that we had a very special advocate for childhood cancer who is not afraid to boldly create awareness. And we just want to wish you lots of blessings for your future. And yeah, just keep on spreading that message of hope. then my dear Grant, I don't think words can say how much CHOC appreciates you and the cows. Your brand, our brand, is bold, it's visible, and it's admired by so many. And as always, we love you dearly, and we will always appreciate it that you and Karen made something so beautiful from a very sad situation. Thank you for being part of the panel today. Then Phumeza, I think the first time I heard you, it was on an interview, I think it was with ENCA, regarding your journey with your beautiful child. I knew that you would be a very special ambassador for CHOC and childhood cancer. Please never stop that. Please continue to use your influence to boldly create awareness about childhood cancer. And then thank you to my team, Taryn, Musi, and the brand race. Wayne, we always appreciate you. So last week, I was privileged to train healthcare professionals, healthcare workers, and communities on the early warning signs of childhood cancer in the very, very, very far Springbok in the Northern Cape. It's far from everything, and it was so interesting to hear how many children were diagnosed with childhood cancer in that area, and how thankful the people were that we gave them the message of the early warning signs. But one day I stood in the pharmacy, and there was a man standing in front of me, and he turned around to look who was behind him, and I had my corporate clothing on with my CHOC logo, and he looked around and he said, CHOC. And I said, do you know CHOC? And he said, yes. He became actually very emotional, saying that his 10-year-old daughter currently is on treatment, and you know how thankful they are towards CHOC for helping them and supporting them. But it was the next sentence that really touched my heart so deeply, when he said that he would do anything so that people can know about the early warning signs of childhood cancer, so that no child should suffer the way his child did. So we can no longer allow communities not to have the knowledge of the early warning signs of childhood cancer. And we need to stand together collaboratively to ensure that no child suffer, have pain, or die in vain. Let's take hands and let's work together towards the World Health Organization Global Initiative for Childhood Cancer, with a goal of 60% survival rate by 2030. And if we can achieve that, we will save additional 1 million lives globally. So I ask you, wear your golden ribbon and boldly create awareness about childhood cancer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Wow. Thank you, Audrey. You were thanking your team, but we want to thank you as well for the amazing work that you do every single day. To you and your team, everybody at CHOC and involved in CHOC. You're a blessing, a lifesaver, and we thank you so much for the wonderful work that you guys are doing. So thank you, Audrey. Thank you very, very much indeed. Okay, so just to say goodbye, but first, if you have any questions or if you need any help, refer a child or help a child who might have cancer, please visit the CHOC website, and that address is www.choc.org.za, and somebody will contact you straight away. Please also don't forget to click on the events for exciting upcoming webinars, and you can register for those. But go out there, be amazing, be bold, go gold boldly. Early warning signs, that's the one thing that we kept hearing throughout. It saves lives. It could save your child's life. It could save another child's life. So spread the word. Let's get every single person in the country aware of what these signs are, so that we can do so much more for our children. But thank you very much indeed for tuning in. As always, it's so good and great and fulfilling to be part of your conversations. And we certainly look forward to seeing you at the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.